We totally shall. Or he'll be frustrated.
So what you're saying is that John recognizes that in order to do quality multiple family group therapy, a therapist has to do screwed up multiple family group therapy, and he lets you make those mistakes so that you can learn from your mistakes.
And grow from them.
And we don't learn from our successes, we learn from our mistakes. That's true. What else? How else do you survive? You've been in this business how long? 24 years?
Well, I think that, from my own personal opinion, is that your attitude about what you're doing. You know, if you're here to make a lot of money, or if you're here to get a lot of pats on the back, that's not why you should be here. If you're here to give yourself to the people that you're working for, the kids and the staff, and to work with them and be open to change. Like I said, from the time I came here to now, there have been just a multitude of changes, the way this program's being run, and to keep an open mind, still have your same personal drive and attitude about what you want to do as a person and working with these young people and families, would be able to adjust to the changes of the program. I think it's one thing. But the main thing, I think, is if you're here to give, you will get a lot more out of it and give a lot more. If you're here to get praised or get pats on the back, it's not going to work for you. And that's my feeling of it.
So what I think I'm hearing you say is that if you get caught up in the product versus the process, then you're going to burn out faster. So the key is to focus on the process rather than the end product.
Well, I think if you were working here to meet your own need, there'd be a lot less chance of you being successful or being effective as if you're here to give of yourself, regardless of what you get back. That you're here to give. If I knew how to help you, and I could help you regardless of how you acted towards me, then I could give it to you, regardless of how you reacted to me. I think it's one of the main things I've seen over the years of people who've been successful here, people who give themselves. And that's why they're here, or the ones who are going to be the most successful, or more helpful, more effective.
Is that true for everybody else? Do you see it the same way?
Yeah, I think you've really, survival is having spiritual priorities in order in this business, I think. You have to keep yourself full or you can't offer. And in many ways, I think that's circular. You keep yourself full by offering without necessarily expecting return. And you keep a sense of we're not God. Our job is to offer and to do the best we're capable of doing to help someone look at their life or look at aspects. What they do with it is their job, not ours. Our job is to help them look. And that perspective is what has kept me from burning out in this business. The commitment that we're here not for money, we're here not for all those things, although some of that's important. We're here because we care about other people, and that's a spiritual kind of commitment. But within that, we recognize God gave all of us right of choice. And you don't try and take that away, or you're playing God. And that's where therapists drive themselves crazy, when they take responsibility for the outcome.
Right.
Instead of giving people their God-given right to run their own lives and make their own choices. Our job is to help them look and to care.
So what I'm hearing is the number one ingredient that Stokes talked about was trust, respect for the leader or leaders, being able and knowing that you're free to take care of yourself and your family and not work 100 hours a week. And if you need to take care of business, go take care of business with your family. To be able to make mistakes and grow from those mistakes and have a leadership or supervisors willing to allow you to do that. And also being in a place with yourself where you can give of yourself to allow people the opportunity to help themselves, but not get caught up in their being successful or unsuccessful, because that's their responsibility. Now, is that pretty much on target?
And I think one thing we haven't, that I'm responsible for, that we haven't done enough of, but we've done some of, that responds to that earlier question is, before group, talking about family issues. After group, talking about group and talking about family issues. I've chosen to make other things more important sometimes, so we haven't done that as regular as we need to. But that's the response to how do we anticipate or deal with some of those things. It has to be through group supervision, group comparing notes and comparing our impressions about things and where things might go. And doing it to the best of our ability, accepting that one mind is going to be better, 5 minds is going to be better than one in terms of figuring some things out like that. Because we're all growing with our understanding of systems and systems theory and family work. So we're going to do some screwed up stuff. And maybe I'm not the best supervisor in having some of those insights, but if I push us as a group growing together and support people getting another component to that, outside training and in-services that dovetail with, then we're doing the best we can do with the resources we have. And that's probably a responsibility I need to make more of a priority. Particularly since I'm trying to encourage these folks to do more individual family work or group work with the kids, which they're doing. We probably need to do more of that. And it's the whole group. We're not dependent upon me, we're dependent upon each other for that process.
Well, it sounds like you hire quality people, and then you get out of the way and let them use their talent and be creative.
And try and find everybody a role they feel neat about, that they can get excited about.
That's a good point. How long does it take a new social worker, for example, who comes to work at Boys and Girls Home to find their place in the system here?
I guess that's us.
Well, the other people here have had to find their place too, so how long does it take? A year, 2 years, 6 months?
Gosh. If you have an idea, go ahead. I'm going to think about this.
A few weeks ago, John and I were talking. He was over in the office and he brought over some things that he wanted me to look through in terms of developing some social skill kinds of stuff for us to use in groups on campus. And just in talking with him, and we were talking about multifamily group and my involvement in it, participation in that kind of thing. And as I was talking with him, I realized that one of the things that probably at this point in my life I'm more adept at is that I like to have things controlled, I like things organized, and that's the teacher part in me, I think, in terms of knowing when I'm going into a situation, knowing that I have things mapped out, this is what I want to do, this is where we're going, and realizing that in a multifamily group, that is definitely not what's going to happen. And so in the process of that meeting, actually I think he had come over with and thinking about my doing some things in terms of educational stuff after the multifamily group, and as a result of that, we're beginning to do that in on the Saturday sessions, and I enjoy doing those kinds of things. I like to be organized and present material and that kind of thing, and so and I've been here a couple of years, I guess, and so my advantage was I was coming in right as they were laying the groundwork for the multifamily group. But the whole counseling scene and this kind of thing was new to me. I was coming from an educational background. And so it's though I didn't feel ostracized at all, I felt very much a part of what was going on and very involved in it and enjoying it. I think probably my greater strengths lie in the educational part of it than in the getting into the middle of the unknown in the group setting, though I want to grow in that and have a lot of ways to grow. So I don't know if the time frame can actually be pegged on it, but just, I'm beginning to do some things now that I really enjoy.
But the teaching will do that, because she teaches the group people, interacts in group discussion, and makes connections and gains comfort. Then you're going to jump into the craziness that you can't predict more effectively.
No, I remember Stokes when he first came in and his background in teaching the ropes course at Winthrop and so forth. That experience really was quite valuable in building the group initially. We did a lot of those things to build trust and so forth, and the social interaction, and those were experiences that none of us had before, and we really used him quite a bit, and still do.
So some team building exercises like the ropes course has helped as well. So how long have you been here, Stokes?
3.5 years now. I was just turning things over, and when a person comes to work in a new place, they do and check and do and check and do and check, and everything I checked, John was fine with. And in my own mind, I was expecting, you know, this is the road we want you to follow. These are the things that are expected of you. And the road was very broad. And I made things very narrow for myself. I remember at the very beginning. And so over time, it's kind of broadened out, and you know, sometimes I'm sure I get off the road, but I've come back onto it. But it's gosh, time frame. I can't put a finger on it.
Kind of jumped in, didn't you?
Yeah, and then John's encouraged me into doing things that I was not real sure how to do. I remember one Friday he said, by the way, you're doing multiple family group tomorrow. After CPR, things went okay, but it's been an encouraging process, not, you know, this is what you're going to do, but I'd like you to do this, and you know, if you trip, I'll be there to help you. Everybody has been there to help. But as far as learning what's expected or what to do, I'm still learning.
So the answer might be that people adapt to the system at their own pace.
And in this system, the system is incorporating us. So it's the system of everyone here. I don't think you can put a time limit on it.
So you find your own place whenever you find your own place.
And you're allowed to find your own place.
And that's a good point.
I've done some backpacking with the Boy Scouts, and John found out that I knew some about backpacking and said, here's the stuff we're using. It served well. Can we do it better? And we were very fortunate in having a donor who said, here's some money, get some new stuff. I had a blast. Went to catalogs and ordered stuff, and just had an unreal time at it. And Jimmy got to carry something this a couple of weekends ago, and we've shared and learned. And freeze-dried food is not the best in the world, but it sure is
You're
like
hungry, you can eat that stuff, right?
But what we're trying to do here for the kids and families is provide an enriched environment, and that is so broad a thing that all you got to do is find some person's personal interest. Backpacking. Stokes has got a talent with group skills. Becky's talent with teaching. Jimmy has a talent.
Say that again, Jimmy.
It's so broad. You just encourage people to use their natural interests and talents, and they're going to fit because we're trying to enrich an overall total environment. So that's what I've been trying to do, is just find things they can get excited about and turn them loose with it.
The bottom line, Lewis, is that anybody can do it. If we can do it, anybody can do it. And it's not hard. It is not hard to do the multiple family group.
So my next question is, how long does it take multiple family group therapy to find its niche on a children's home campus? Has it found its niche yet?
I think so. I think, John can take off and I'd be there and we still have group and feel pretty comfortable about it, don't we, Dave? Some good things still happen. And I think that it's here to stay, and I don't think it's dependent upon Bill Morrison or John or me or anyone. I think it's here. And
So you've gotten the group to the point where you are actually leading by following.
Oh, yes.
And the families are bringing the content, you're providing the place and some process, but it's really their group.
Mhm.
And we have enough indigenous leadership that they socialize the new people and the group moves on. At first, you had to build that. Once it's built, if you've got strong leaders and there's continuity, all of them don't leave at once. So they go gradually and they socialize new leaders. It runs itself.
So these open-ended groups work best?
I think so. Because you've got somebody to socialize the new group, and the power of the group is them helping themselves. So if they're doing the socializing, that's the best, and it continues smoothly.
How many people would you have in your groups? How many families?
We have had as many as 60, but normally we have around 30 people there, don't we, John?
Usually it's more like
And
that.
that's a good workable group.
How many families? 30 people?
7 to 10.
7 to 10.
Yeah.
Predominantly. We get more moms and more commitment from moms than dads. Often dads are out of the picture. A lot of these are single-parent homes. Over half our kids are from single-parent homes. So we get a lot of moms. So we get mom and sib. Sometimes we get boyfriends in. We push for it.
Yeah.
But they're often not as committed to that unit, or skeptical about this whole group thing. We've got a policeman, stepdad come once, and he kind of tolerated it. We encourage, but I don't know when he'll make it back. So a lot of times it's mom and sibs and the child, and aunts. But every once in a while we get 4 or 5 stepdads to work with, or boyfriends to work with.
Sounds like natural fathers tend not to come.
Yeah. Tend to be in other places, other states sometimes, or to be active alcoholics.
Is there a high percentage of children on this campus, for example, that come from homes where there is alcohol, drug abuse, or addiction?
I would guess it varies between 60 to 80% over time, given the population. But that's over half to 3/4 of the kids are going to come from families that are disrupted by chemical dependence.
Well, when you're bringing children onto a campus like this from such a diverse population in a wide area, you're going to run into many things. What about HIV or AIDS? Do you run across that, and if so, how do you deal with it? What do you do with confidentiality around those issues in multiple family groups?
Well, at this point in time, we have one situation in group that no one in group but us knows about, and we don't know for sure on that one yet. We do have on the application, there's admitting physical required on all children. There was some conflict between state licensing guidelines around communicable diseases and the federal money guidelines under 504 on serving handicaps, and that's been defined as a handicapping condition. Our medical application asks the physician to evaluate whether or not they think testing is appropriate, and then to give the test if they think it's appropriate. There's a medical committee who would evaluate service to that child. But if to serve that child would endanger no more than in a normal home environment, then children's homes, if they want government monies, must serve those children. If that child comes with a history of being a sexual abuser or on violent fights where it's very easy there might be some kind of blood contamination, then we would not serve because it might endanger others in our population. But if they don't have that history and just HIV positive, then we're going to serve them, and we're going to take universal precautions on dealing with all the kids. There's the bloodborne pathogens and all kinds of regulations around that. So it's just standard practice. If you're doing first aid on a kid, you've got on your rubber gloves. If you're dealing with blood or body fluids, you're dealing with it in a safe way. And it's not just AIDS, there's the risk of hepatitis and a lot of other things. So you just take normal precautions. And then we don't tell everybody who we've got. Sometimes we don't know who we've got.
Of course. This job of being a social worker on a children's home campus seems, especially this campus, seems to be non-traditional based on what typical social workers receive in training in colleges and universities. How do social workers fit on this campus? I mean, I'm looking at social workers here. My understanding of how social workers have been trained in the past is you find employment for the parents, you clothe and feed the family, make sure they've got a place to stay. That's not what you're doing here.
We do individual and group counseling with the children, with the residents. And we also, I think, we're a bridge between the child and his family, and a bridge between the child and his house parents or the other staff on campus or whatever. When he's in the trenches, we're there with him. Of course, we do a lot of crisis management. We do education with house parents. We keep the child's background before them in dealing with them. Same way at school. And we make sure that if the child has been abused, that they know the child has been abused, and therefore, they will not react to him in the way they would ordinarily. So we're just kind of in the trenches with the child.
I think one of the things too is you can be involved in informal situations, like down at the gym playing basketball or going on a trip with them, or just being on campus with them, where you just don't meet them in your office for an appointment, but you have an opportunity to be with them in more relaxed social situations, where a traditional social worker works at the Department of Social Services probably doesn't have that opportunity that we do here in working with them. Which I think it really helps to build your relationship with the child. In fact, a lot of times you can talk better and have a more in-depth conversation with the boy down at the gym than you can back in my office back there, because he feels more relaxed in that environment instead of sitting in my office. Sometimes when you come to the office, the first thing they say, "What have I done?" Not that you want to comment on that. The first question they have is, "What have I done?" So sometimes it's much less anxiety in those types of situations. Of course, you have a chance to enjoy them too in those types of situations.
So I'm hearing underneath all that one of the special ingredients or differences that this type of social work offers children is that you have the opportunity to offer Bill Morrison.
Right.
And be the best Bill Morrison you can be on this campus with those kids, which in effect provides them with a role model.
True.
Surrogate parenting.
It also gives me the pleasure of being with them, working with them, or in those types of situations.
You can do what you can play at what you love to play at and be working at the same time.
That's right. That's
and where else do you get that?
That's a good point, yeah.
Be it working out in the weight room or going backpacking or sailing on the lake and you're impacting.
Well, your line here, I mean, the lake is just a few steps away from where we are right now. So that is nice.
Something that Becky and I have done is take girls backpacking. And whoa, I can't make it up the hills and I can't go any further, and I'll drop my pack right here to the I don't know, was there ever before the last trip, Becky and I met with the girls and explained to them about relationships between men and women that are not sexual. And since that was primarily your discussion with them, and you had more contact with them, you talk about that, please, if you would.
Sounds interesting to me.
Well, it gave, I think, a couple of things it did for the girls in terms of getting them out of the cottage and into the environment. Is that we initially started off with a lot of I can'ts. And as the trip progressed, they realized they could, and really, several of the girls, I mean, probably a couple in particular, I feel like it changed their own thinking about what their own abilities were in terms of being able just to climb the mountains or build a fire or cook a meal over a fire. The second thing I think probably was even more important than this is that it gave the girls an opportunity to see, well, for one thing, see us interact, the two of us, being male and female, interact in very healthy, wholesome ways. It gave them opportunities for the two guys who were with us, Stokes and one of his buddies, for them to interact in non-sexual, very helping, very wholesome ways. And I feel like it really had a real positive impact on the girls in a non-traditional way. And probably I could have been in the office and talked with them hours on end on relationships with guys and how they can be healthy without being sexual.
Right.
And this had so much more of an impact than that would have.
Experiencing that, being with a male who is seeing them as another human being.
Exactly.
Not as
An object.
Yeah.
It's just the same with I know Bill loves to play basketball with them, and that's the thing we've done. And when John and I have taken them backpacking, and now Jimmy's going backpacking also, there's a lot of therapy that goes on. Not behind a desk, not sitting in an office, sometimes not even on this campus. And that's very important.
You look at the three basic things we're trying to do besides establish a family connection. The studies of resilient kids, if you get them involved in some pro-social activity they feel good about, so they have something to contribute. You give them a mentor or a role model, be that the guy who cuts the grass, or the cook, or the social worker, or the house parent, or the farm manager, but you give them somebody that's a role model. And then you improve their social skills. If you do those three things for a kid, and he gets those three areas going, he's got a better likelihood of making it and becoming a productive member of society. He feels good about himself. He knows how to get along with others and get positive responses to himself from others. He's got something he wants to do, some direction in his life, and people he trusts. So that's what we try and do. And then the added component, those have always been here, and the added component now is connecting with his family, giving him back some sense of rootedness. If we do those things successfully, we've helped.
So the three things you mentioned work well with a child on campus.
Mm-hmm.
You take those three things and you put families together in multiple family therapy, and those three things are happening from family to family,
Yes.
versus individual to individual.
Mm-hmm. It really is.
For someone who is in a children's home somewhere and they're saying, this may work on my campus, how do I get started? What would you say to them?
Contact Stokes and I.
Contact Stokes and you.
Yeah. What would I say? I'd say find somebody who's done it, talk with them enough to get comfortable about how to start it, and then just do it. And if you do it, it will work.
So what are the basic things that they would need to make a decision about before they just do it? One thing I'm thinking about is they got to have a place to
Right. You want to look at some of the practical things. They need a room big enough to comfortably house 30 to 60 folks.
In a
We've got
circle.
room- In a circle.
In one large circle or in circles around each other in the round?
Flexible room. We've got a large room, folding chairs, and we end up in many different configurations depending on what we're doing. We end up with extra chairs in there taking the place of family members who aren't there. At times, trying to draw awareness to the importance of getting another family member. So you need a space conducive to flexible arrangement of that many people. And you need a location, I guess, central enough that people can consistently, relatively conveniently get there. Although relatively convenient can mean a 4-hour drive if you've got families who are committed to each other, because we've got families coming that far.
Well, the Milan group in northern Italy uses ordeal therapy and likes the idea that Italians from Brindisi, Italy will have to drive north past Rome to get to